Welcome, you all.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Uh, Let me welcome our today's speaker, the most eminent person, Mr. Mohanji Saxena, was a former MD Ayurved, founding director, QCS Herbals. And let me take this opportunity to introduce our today's speaker, Mr. Mohanji Saxena, who is a distinguished alumnus of IIT BHU, Varanasi, and disciple of Professor Shivnath Ghoshal, the father of Shilajit in India. He has a strong global mindset for research on traditional knowledge, for developing science-based solutions for socio-economic rural development of India. He has been associated with Ayurved Research Foundation, Alternative Green Energy Solution, and has to his credit building brand Ayurved, offering innovative, affordable herbal products. Over his long career of 30 years in leadership position as managing director, science-based herbals with evidence of clinical validation is his passion, and sustainability drives his vision and mission. So, with such an personality today, we are having the opportunity to listen from him. So, before we start, let me just take this opportunity again to explain why we are trying to have this series of lectures. Particularly, it is not like a webinar having a number of participants. That is not our intention here. Our intention is here just to have that interactions and your deliberations on our way forward in the direction of the overall development of the medicinal plant sectors, which we have identified. Apart from the other important aspects, also the main thing being the association, the development that needed immediately might be in the regulation, might be in the policy framework, might be in the different schemes. The main thing is that we have to have a very based on your suggestion, so that we can make a paper which we could submit to the ministry, particularly to the National Medicinal Plant Board, if they could take it forward and try to include the very important suggestions and the framework that we are going to suggest based on all of your experts' lectures. That is our main objective of this series of webinars. And the main field which we have identified is that the marketing and the supply chain management, these two, is still in a very, I must say, very nascent stage. It is not even took any shape that way, which should be a structured one, in the sense that we need a lot of other inputs also. But the most of the important thing is still it remains the it's an unorganized sector, which what I'd like to say. So it is really all of our should be our task to really get this sort of people who have so much of knowledge, so much of experience working over such a long period of time, and their suggestions in this development of this medicinal plant sector is very important, because our intention obviously is the medicinal plant sector overall growth, but the most important thing is that with the farmers, how we can make their livelihood better in terms of medicinal plants as well. So with these words, I rather all of us are eagerly listening your thing, Saxena sir. We are here only to listen from you, and then if we get certain opportunity to interact with you through our interactive session, so we will do that. And we have our also one expert with us, so who is trying to jot it down so that we can make a paper which we are going to submit it to the ministry. Obviously, we will be sharing all these things with you all. So with this, and let us, Mr. Shantanu Chakraborty, would you like to add anything? Else we should directly over the platform to Mr. Mohanji Saxena.
Thank you, Professor Majumdar. You have nicely introduced Saxena sir, and actually Saxena sir doesn't need any introduction in this sector. He is he can be considered as one of the person who has the grip over the entire value and supply chain. So let us make the best utilization of the time, and let us hand over the stage to Saxena sir and listen to him.
Thank you. Thank you. Saxena sir, please.
Thank you, Dr. Majumdar, and thank you, Shantanu. Before I start, I would like to express my heartfelt thanks and gratitude to both of you for choosing this such an important aspect which is defined in the 13 points and captioned as challenges and opportunities in the area of this medicinal plant sector. So I would basically try to give both the sides of the opportunities as well as the current situation in terms of what you rightly said about the gap of supply chain and the gap between the producer, collector, processor, aggregator, then the user, industry, and the consumer. But before that, the first and foremost thing which I think we must keep in our mind, that after the COVID, India got the new identity that I is for immunity, and world over, the economists, the researchers, the scientists, who all had predicted in the month of March 2020 that what is the scenario of COVID going to be for a country like India with a population of 140 crore. And because of the inadequacy of not having vaccine and not having enough infrastructure to handle the patient in the hospital, the projections by Wall Street journals and all the economists elsewhere, including the scientists, India is a country which will suffer the most out of COVID. And I take pride, and I tell everyone to take pride that this achievement of India to come out with the vaccine in a record time, and also our heritage, which provided us basically that the pharmacy exists in our kitchen, and whatever the home remedies people adopted in terms of consuming ashwagandha, giloy, that is tinospora, piper longum, and the so many other things, kept the Indians protected, and mortality has been such a low that per lakh mortality was absolutely impressive when it was compared with the developed nation. So COVID opened up basically this opportunity for the country, and accordingly the gates got opened up. But because the vaccination was done 2022 onward, there was a mismatch of supply and demand. So there was too much of production of tulsi all over, too much of production of ashwagandha, and companies also basically provided the support for the production And we were not really very confident that it will go down. That demand went down, prices crashed, and a sort of a crisis became for the farmer. Now, with the current situation that all your 13 points are so much important that there can be a national sample collection, there can be, because with different region, with different herbs, with different industry, the data points are highly different. And while all the institution exist, data may be there, but then it is not used for planning of the projection of the requirement. And as a result, you find that in the entire chain, no one is in a happy situation. So even if the consumer is there, I would take it who is at the terminal and who make use of these herbs or the product which are made out of it, his confidence in the science-based authentic herbs is still not answered, where he can get the confidence what he gets with the allopathic product. So the situation remained the same. Ayurvedics are still considered as the step cousin of allopathic, and allopathic is considered as superior, and therefore looked up. Ayurvedic and herbalism is looked down upon. Now, this scenario which is there, and I would say answer to each of the points which are raised is that, in short, there is a disconnect between the producer, user, consumer, and the middleman. And absolutely, it is the demand and supply which determines the price. And what goes on the back burner is the quality, the science, the technology, and the decisions are made not on the basis of the science which government want, Ayush want, which National Medicinal Plant Board wants, which all the scientists who are working on herbals want, and so much so the disjoint is there. So the species which we say is to be used is no longer available, no longer in existence. A lot of things have become obsolete in the sense that they are not at all available. And we are living in the current world where on one side the opportunity is there, at the same time on the other side the gaps are there. So first I will name the opportunity which is there for every Indian company and for India. And that came out in a report by the Lancet in 2023, that world is going to be the victim of climate change. World is going to be the victim of the pollution, particularly the air pollution. The people all over the world are going to suffer on account of antimicrobial resistance, which has developed, due to which antibiotics are no longer be able to save the life, particularly amongst the people who suffer from respiratory diseases. And this respiratory distress on account of pollution, on account of contaminants which gets in our body. So Lancet named 7 of the diseases or 7 of the health disorders to which the government have to prepare themselves for, besides the malnutrition and the say contaminants which are there in our food. Now, when you look at into the I for India and I for immunity, all eyes of the global turn on the very first product, that is ashwagandha. And we in our country, in ashwagandha, started using so much so the leaves also, the stem also, forgetting about where the glycophenolate resides. And in that process, every species became Vidania somnifera only, whereas in India itself, the wild variety, the cultivated variety, and while it is an opportunity for the India to develop the ashwagandha on the similar line as ginseng got the recognition globally, Panax ginseng and Erythrococcus senticosus, as you name stress, you name immunity, and first thing which comes is Panax ginseng. Now, when we look at into that, is the Indian ashwagandha at the same level? The answer comes no. Then comes the question, why not? What is the reason when it is better effective than Panax ginseng? Why it could not be globalized and we could provide the germplasm of Vinania somnifera, the variety which grows in say Neemuch and Mandsaur and other places, and what are the factors which would result into good quality of vidanolides. So there comes the answer, the commerce, who decides the decision? I have run the company for so long. After that, when we started our company, QCS Herbal, the decision is taken only on the basis of single parameter, the price, not about the quality. And in that context comes the question, if we provided opportunity to Americans and other Europeans to study this plant Vidania somnifera, the climate in which it will grow, they identified in US, in the state of Nebraska, Arizona, and asked their universities to start cultivation of ashwagandha because they believe it. When it came that people, cancer incidence in India, what will be the rate of cancer and different type of cancer, then it came out, look, colon cancer, colorectal cancer, lungs cancer, the cancer of skin and cancer of vital organs are going to rise because contaminants are already acting and you cannot remove them. So what is the protection? And when the demand for bio-antioxidant started, free radical scavenger started, then the thing came, look, even an institute like Tata Memorial Cancer Hospital, they created a farm only for the production of authentic germplasm certified medicinal plant for evaluation in the different cancer cell model. Because they said, if I go and get it from the commerce, from the trade, every time I will get the different material and my lakhs of rupees are going to be wasted because my starting material will not be authentic. Now, with this background, when I look into this, I am reminded of my pharmacy education that we studied that Bengal was the basically breeding ground of all the innovation, particularly when Britishers were stepping their foot in Bengal through East India Company. Cinchona in 1600 got identified in Bengal, and the all control of Cinchona for the control of malaria, and this quinine on one pan and double the quantity of gold on the other pan was the basically thing. Not only the Cinchona, but opium also has the same story. Rolfia also has the same story. And in West Bengal, the tribals are still there who have the knowledge that how those uncurable diseases, which modern science or say allopathy cannot, but those herbs which can be called as once upon a time that used to be the herbs which was used for this. When Bengal Chemical started, when PC Ray, Bengal Chemical used to produce a injection of Spirocheat. It was a 50 ampere pterigospermine used to be the basically alkaloid, and 1% solution was there to treat any type of wound. So Bengal as a land of innovation, as a land of basically taking up the issue in the right manner. You see, so many industries are there in Ayurveda, but I would say none of them have been able to basically do the work to protect the future and do something for preparing the country toward science-based, quality-based, germplasm, authentic-based herbalism. That's a journey which you all have started. And I would like to say this, it is not a easy journey. It's a very tough, because in your journey and all the people who are part of this journey, they are the sufferer because there are vested interest also. It's a situation where climate is there, loss of crop is there, and farmer doesn't get compensated for, because none of the medicinal plant are covered under Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. That's another pending demand with the government, that please provide protection to the crops. Then comes for the situation, if we are trying to connect the dots, and those dots connected will result into removing the darkness with the light, because it's a production which is based on the projection of the requirement, what the industry needs, what the basically storage requirements are, what is farmer need. Now, starting from farmer, up till now, most of the supply comes from the wild. So it's a collection based on how good rapport you have with the forest officer and how many people you can slip in the forest, and then it gets collected. But in the last 10-15 years, the collection started. Bengal started producing, say, Brahmi, Bacopa Monri. But then again comes the question, look, Bacopa Monri, the drying process is such that lot of sand comes along with it. And when the sand and silica comes along with it, then it no longer basically comply with the requirement what is given in Ayurvedic pharmacopoeia, and therefore it fails into that test. But again comes the question, it's a labor intensive operation to clean and process the herbs for the basically quality. So I would like to share with you the current situation through couple of slides, that where we are, where when we say we means industry also, and this trade is also. Because with every failure of quality indicator, there is a cost associated in terms of the transportation, in terms of the taking material back. So while the current situation does call for hand holding to minimize such incidences of quality rejection, at the same time, to be future ready and globally competitive for meeting the challenges, we all have to handhold each other. And that is where I see the much, much bigger role of your organization and your team to take the message forward on the national level, where the one action can lead into several benefits. So first I would share the observation of the last 2 years in terms of where we stand as regard to the questions what you have raised, the 13-point program. So, can you please show? You see, 2021, when we set up this organization, and as the name itself indicates, quality certified and standardized herbals private limited, इसको full screen
सर वो सर इनका they have to minimize सर ये
So this is the data I'm going to share for the program which we carried out as regard to the quality of herbs as per Ayurvedic pharmacopoeia specification.
सर are they able to see it sir?
So are you able to see Dr. Shantanu and Dr. Majumdar?
Not yet, sir.
Oh.
There are 4 files, but I think we need to, you please share the screen, sir.
Okay.
Okay sir, doing it
Share
sir.
the screen. We have an option, share the screen. If you kindly take the help of that. That option. Yeah. You could share the screen, yeah. Yeah.
Sir, is it visible now?
Yeah, yeah.
Coming
Yes,
sir? Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
now it is visible. Kindly go to the full screen, then it would be very nice.
Yeah.
But it's
Is it now full screen?
Not yet, sir.
Okay.
1 minute sir, hold on, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. Sir, is it full screen right now?
Yeah. It has come. It has come as a full screen.
Thank you
Okay.
sir, thank you.
So what you would find on the top, that around 400 samples of different, say 34 different type of herbs which are commonly used in Ayurvedic. That way, total number of herbs, if we see, around 500 are used. But these are some of the herbs which were included as a part of the basically routine sample analysis program. And API standards are defined out of 269 samples, So you find that for many of the things, specifications are not there in API. So that becomes the task for Ayush Ministry, National Medicinal Plant Board, and the academic institute to look at into those herbs which are not there in the API. Now, what is actually the very concerning is only 109 samples could comply with the API, and non-compliant samples were almost 160, that is more than 50% samples were not complying with a simple parameter of moisture, the total ash content, acid insoluble ash, alcohol soluble, and water soluble extractive. Now, from here, what you find, go to the next one, that the number of samples from different
Sir, slide is
vendors.
moving. Sir, slide has moved on your screen.
Dr. Shantanu, is the
Yes,
slide?
please, yes, we can move to the next window.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay. So if you see that the non-compliant sample, say Kalmeg and Kokum is there, but if you take ash in the number 2, 34 samples consisting of different herbs, as simple as ashwagandha, tulsi, long pepper, bhumi avla, makoy, and they are not complying with respect to, say, acid insoluble ash. Now here comes 79 samples are not compliant, and what it is basically referring to, that post-harvest concern is there, where the earth comes, sand comes, silica comes, and then of course these two extractive value which are indicative of some activity, that water soluble extractive and alcohol soluble extractive. Now these are the very preliminary parameter. I would say today it has advanced to much higher that where active compounds are being looked into by HPLC, HPTLC, fingerprinting is done. But when they are not complying with the simple parameter, then going up to that becomes not that much viable. And you will find that, go to the next one. If you take, say, herbs wise, Tulsi is a most say, common one. So everybody basically asks for Tulsi. Now here the issue is whether it is Tulsi leaves or whether it is Tulsi Panchang. And Panchang also is such a highly variable thing. You will get a sample of Tulsi in which leaves are absent or in which the leaves in different proportion are there. And therefore, out of 87% of 87 sample, 48% were not compliant with regard to 1 or 2 or 3 parameters. Go to the next one. Now, this is the situation even for the herb like Kalmeg. 41% samples are not complying and maximum are with respect to the alcohol soluble extractive where andrographolite comes. Only 14% samples are compliant with respect to these two marker of alcohol and water soluble. Go to the next. Same is the situation with ashwagandha. So as I said, that current situation is that there is a certain issue. Now, however effort you make to train the farmer who is involved in the cultivation of these plants and the cleaning operation and to give you the quality, everything get into the cost. And then he gets paid by the where his cost is not fully recovered or he becomes the victim of exploitation. So that part of economics is very much there where these quality indicators take the back seat. Go to the next. So this report is there. We can share with you, with your team, with our observation, what is the issue as regard to very important herbs Brahmi. Now coming to this point that dementia and children's ability for mental growth is forecasted to be affected Therefore some solution is needed, and Brahmi comes out as one of the thing, the Centella asiatica comes out as another one, ashwagandha comes out as the another one for nootropic activity, including the growing incidence of Alzheimer in the country. Now, Medical Council of India, that is the Ministry of Health, they have taken up a program on the insistence of the Prime Minister that Ayush needs to be given scientific exploration. And therefore, they started the basically national program for evaluation of different Ayurvedic herbs. And they got stuck also. How do I get the germplasm identified that this is Bacopa Mundri? And if I have 10 sample of Bacopa Mundri collected from say different places in Bengal and in say Uttarakhand and Bangalore, then all are looking different and everybody is saying on the label Bacopa Mundri. That is where comes the basically germplasm identification, certification, and authentic germplasm cultivation in the area where it can express the best gene of bacoside A and bacoside B and free from the contaminants which also comes in the plant through the soil. Next one. So all this report we will share with you, Dr. Majumdar and Dr. Shantanu, with your team, along with our comments and observation. Now, coming back to the questionnaire, I believe, and this is what is my proposal, that if you allow us, we will conduct this all India survey with your this 13-point questionnaire with the industry, with the local representative, stakeholder, and it might be a feedback of more than 200 important people because it concerns to everyone. Also, government also, the Vaidyas also, to industry also, to economists also. And then that report, and no doubt, a lot of things are known, which we will share with you also. But the key thing comes, how do we draw out a roadmap, at least for 5 years, where government also is there, not for the short-term immediate gain, but for the transformation which needs to be taken in order to address the issue which are very much there. And I would say, if at all, why Ayurveda has not come up to that global recognition level, largely the answer lies in terms of the lack of scientific approach in taking it the cultivation and with the authentic material. Now, the opportunity is immense. The rare and endangered herbs and the knowledge which exists with our tribals is a very, very golden treasure for India. So, if we can revive that, how the Berberis supply will continue. Today, the Berberis has gone out of usage by the Ayurvedic manufacturer. You ask the Ayurvedic manufacturer, why are you not using Berberis? He said, oh my God, it's so much of problem. It's not available. There is so much of certification. Each state has a different policy. While it is allowed in Himachal Pradesh that you can excavate the roots and supply it to the industry, but same is not allowed in Uttarakhand, and therefore the people in Uttarakhand, even to store this, they have to basically go and take the license. Now those issues are there where a simple traditional heritage of Ayurveda, that is Berberis, or say Coptis theta is already basically out of the practice, out of the usage. Now, this list is very, very long. We had in India Gentiana kurova, which got extinct. No one basically grows Gentiana kurova. Everyone is using Picrorhiza kurova, and Picrorhiza also is going out of usage because of the basically prices. And when the demand is there on account of sudden requirement in abroad, and fatty liver syndrome is such a problem where this Picrorhiza grows. So what I am trying to say that we will have to draw out a program together with your department, with you people consulting on all these important aspects. And the objective would be to draw a roadmap, 5-year roadmap, which can act as a basically compass for us to do the required intervention. Industry, if they come forward, because it is their interest also. I talked to a lot of industry, they said, look, the problem is we have made an investment of 300 crore, 400 crore in plant and machinery, in setting up our future requirement. But what is basically a problem is to get the continued supply of good quality material. So every time it comes different, so we have to change the process. So even if we take 10 top industry in our fold, and they also contribute, that what is something which should be taken up for the germplasm authentication, certification, propagation. Today, biotechnology tools are there, immunology tools are there, the storage and analysis can be, DNA fingerprinting can be done, and that is what will make our true identity with us with GI tag. So for so many of these medicinal plants, the GI tag can also be there, and that will give the credibility and authenticity for economic gain of the farmer, economic gain of the user, and then as a solution. Today, you find that import of vegetable protein in the country. Every young person is buying a big can of 3 kg protein from abroad. Now comes the question, look, we have so much of vegetable protein available, why can't it be refined? Including the herbs, which are very good source of amino acids, the good source of lipid peroxidation inhibitor, cyclooxygenase inhibitor, and basically the condition for which the solutions are to be developed. So it's not only just the cultivation or the processing of herbs, but developing the solution with a backup of the evidence-based research and clinical validation, which can basically address the health need of the people all over the world. So with this, I'll give rest to my voice and request for your views and your suggestion as to way forward. And definitely, we are at your disposal. We are very much impressed and by your commitment to the framing of these very, very important questions, which are there, very relevant for every industry, And we are very keen to join hands with your university, and NMPB is here, Ayush is there, so we can basically do the legwork to follow with them and that collaborative program.
Sir, at the outset, I would like to
Thank you very much, sir.
loudly applaud whatever, not only really I am getting so much enlightened by your lecture, and really you were touching upon the points whatever we are thinking, sometimes
Right.
when it is now getting up from your mouth, from your experience, a stalwart like you, and then we find that yes, whatever the directions we are trying to move, it might be the right one.
Absolutely.
So So with this, first of all, we express our sincere regards, our sincere thanks and our gratitude to Mohanji for your marvelous lecture. That's the
Thank
first thing that I would like to say before making any comment. I came to understand a lot of points which really we are sometimes not sharing. It comes to our mind, but as you have given a very good proposals, why don't we make a really the industry people, the leading industry people there who
Yes.
have at least the way they can go for the conservation of the even the journalism and the other things as well. And really, we try to touch upon the, how we can move for our betterment in the terms of scientifically betterment as well as real commitments from our side to the consumers. So
Right.
that the best things to be done. Now, the thing is that on one hand, also we have the farmers. As you know, in West Bengal also, and probably in many parts of our country also, there are all of the most of the farmers are marginal farmers. They have a
Yes.
very small land holding. Particularly, it might be very good so far the land reformation is concerned that took place, and ultimately that leads to this, this panchayat system more stronger and stronger. But at the same time, the problem is that land holding becoming so much less by these marginal farmers. So really making an effective way of improving their livelihood. The only option left is to make a cluster,
Yes.
and that cluster should be of similar minded people. It's not of the similar socioeconomic conditions, but they need also to be, to come up with the challenges that we can, the way that the new thing we can take it up. Now, the thing I'm telling you regarding the backcoma malaria or any sort of thing, it's sometimes the pesticides and insecticides that are coming from the adjoining areas where the paddy cultivations or something are going on, from which automatically there is a chance. So how to get it? Obviously, we should have to take it in a proper way. How we can really avoid that sort of leaching towards this, towards the field where might be in a very following a very good practice. If even this has been raised also, so there might be a chances of contamination. So these are the different challenges that are there. But the thing is that, as you have mentioned, I'm telling you, if I consider this, initially what we can do is that government should enrich these things, that we have to provide the facility like, this very simple sort of screening, as you are showing the very important data. Simple screening of like, this moisture, this ash, and these parameters, if there's some sort of screening we can make, which you can call a little bit of post-harvest management, and thereby simply adding some value, and which is possible. So that is one of the things that one of the thought that we are bearing for a long period of time. But how to make a farms to get, But the thing is that there are a lot of challenges, and I'm very happy that Mr. Shantanu Chakraborty is with us, who is always because he's with us in our National Medicinal Plant Board, RCFC-Eastern region also, and he is also. We are all very keen if we can try to develop a model, with the help of you all, so that we can give you a better thing, but the rejection will be less, and how this could be done. What should be the model of the contracting farming? What should be the the now parametric insurance? How we can brought into this fold? These are the different challenges that are there, because there are obviously some most of the risk although is involved with the farmers, but at the same time, industry has also sometimes a risk of not getting the right produce that they want from the field. So these are the different things are there, and I think we can take it forward under your guidance also, with involving the industry and whatever the thoughts that comes to our mind. But before that, I think I will also add certain thing which will time to time. But as a since I am inviting you also, first thing is that I must go to Mr. Shantanu Chakraborty, who has some very specific questions based on your questions. So,
Welcome, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Majumdar. And I extend my heartfelt thankfulness to Mr. Mohanji Saxena for accepting our invitation and delivering such an excellent talk. And the proposal, what we just received from Mr. Saxena, it's really an excellent one. And I propose to all the RCFC team that let us take it forward. Originally, we came up about this idea of this webinar series rather casually, but now it is creating a lot of snowballing type interest in the industry. So it's the correct time to take it forward, and under the able leadership of Mr. Saxena, we'll get into a huddle in our RCFC and fix up the next program so that we can brainstorm just for the creating the roadmap for involving more industries and more stakeholders into this discussion and exchange of ideas. And discussion with Mr. Saxena is always a learning experience. I have just a few points to discuss with him, share with him. And the data shown regarding this non-compliance of different raw material is really a matter of concern. And actually, there is a lot of a complication here. Now, the industry is being served by two different ecosystems. One is the collected material and the other is the farmed material. And in those two systems, actually there is a conflict of interest. And I believe that we need to do a comparative study regarding the prevalence of non-compliance in farmed material as well as collected material, because there are two distinct traits. One is just like acid insoluble ash and total ash, which can be an artifact for faulty post-harvest management. But the water extractables and alcohol extractables, it is directly linked to genetic trait and agronomic practices. And in collected material, that is very difficult to control. But now farmed material is competing with the collected material, and there is always a price differential. And in some cases, the industry is preferring collected material, and there are certain ideas also prevalent in industry. Thus, collected material is qualitatively better. Actually, I do not know what may be the reason for that. Sir, please, if you can enlighten us with your opinion in this matter, and after that maybe another 1 or 2 points we can discuss about.
It's a very good observation, Shantanu, and I would share that what our experience has been and where the issue is coming. If you look at into any plant material which is coming in the manufacturing, one is that you have to have a source certified. Today, it is not there, but if you are preparing yourself for the export, then you have to have a traceability that from where you have collected the material. But the observation that collected material may come from XYZ places, and XYZ places will have different type of soil, different type of agronomic characteristic, whereas your collected material, whatever we have cultivated material, two things become very, very important. That is the correlation of the plant with the soil health. And we found in case of Tulsi that if the soil organic content was high, same we found in ashwagandha, So now, whatever the cultivation program is given, two things are essentially asked for. Please share your soil report. Now, if soil is deficient of the nutrient, the primary nutrient, then it has an effect on the quality of the foliage, including the andrographolite or say whatever the content we take. Though it is at a very, very preliminary stage, even in Bacopa also, the bacosite content of the Bacopa sample collected from Calcutta, means West Bengal only. In Bankura, it will be different because of the agronomic practices which are different. Now, that is where comes that it is a program through which you will identify the favorable agronomic practices so that you get the basically insured amount of this bacoside. Like you have done in case of stevia, you have studied. In case of licorice, you have studied the experience. Where do you get the good active content genetic material? That's another program which is required as a part of it because the extractors look for active constituent. Whereas Ayurvedic people, they will say, my obligation is to add 50 milligram powder per capsule. I have added 50 milligram, whether it is a stem powder or the leaf powder or the devoid of andrographolite is not my issue. But someone who is basically producing picroside with a known content, he will have to look at into the API and the consistency of the supply. So this is the one of the very, very important thing, that material which comes from the, and 90% material comes from the collected source only in the forest area. But forests are also getting depleted, and therefore you have a supply variation every time. And probably the answer is that why do we need to cultivate to replace, to give the better value to the farmer is through agronomic practices and good return on his investment of time and field.
Thank you, sir. That is really an exhaustive insight into that issues. And regarding that roadmap, sir, there are certain things which may apparently look very simple, but the actual situation is much more complicated. Take the case of the insurance, sir. In this sector, what we believe, only crop insurance may not be the correct idea, because we need insurance against price fluctuation, price realization, and also for dishonoring the contract farming agreements as well. That is to be inbuilt into the insurance framework, and I don't believe that we have any structure regarding that yet in any insurance service provider.
I mean, even the contract, which was part of the deal in the farmer's bill, that how the farmer is going to be compensated and how the tripartite contract should be drawn, that didn't get through. So even now, the companies also avoid to come into the direct contact with the farmer, and they look for the agency who can be a middleman for doing it because of the obvious reason. So there also the transparency need to be there, that who is the ultimate beneficiary and who are the basically people who are influencing it, and there must be an equal distribution or rational proportionate distribution of the benefit.
Exactly, sir. And we also observed that specifically for medium and smaller industries, there is a widespread reluctance for entering into contract farming.
Yes.
They do not want to share any farming risk at all, and all the risks are being piled up on the farmers itself. So we need to come up with a mechanism through which we can distribute a little bit risk throughout the value addition chain, sir.
Yes,
Otherwise, we are having problem is getting sustainability.
absolutely.
We are promoting to our level best the cultivation of medicinal and aromatic plants, but after growing 2 or 3 seasons, farmers are quickly losing interest, and
Absolutely.
and sustainability is always in question. And regarding that price of the raw materials, sir, we actually encountering a lot of terminologies like supporting price, procurement price, competitive price, and a lot of ambiguity is there. The price at which farmer sells, we need to determine whether it should be the price linked to the production cost or what is just the industry wants to pay. Because the prevailing price often do not cover the production cost. And though we have some production cost norm recommended by government agencies, but those are very outdated and often they only include the input cost.
Yes,
And the cost for farmers' labor and all the risk, capital servicing cost, those things are not included at all.
absolutely. Right.
Even provision for yield loss is also not included in the cost. So that is a very acute problem in the sustainability for the farming sector, sir. We need to come up with a proper mechanism so that we can work out sustainability through a supportive pricing mechanism.
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, even the simplest of the simple plant, okay, which is the value cannot be determined by the price, but the value is to be determined by the benefit it gives to the masses, to the people, you know. You know that this semicarpus anacardium, that is a washerman nut, okay. Washerman nut, it's widely available, but again comes the question, you look, the usage in the trade, and it is going to be used in the formulation for the prevention of the cancer. So the value is very, very different, you know. But if it is lost, then the knowledge is lost. And that loss is forever for the generations to suffer from. So these 7 diseases, if we focus on, which are the real health burden on the society, probably it would be a great service to the nation and to the humanity. And that is what I would like that we focus on those with the help of all the other organizations also.
Absolutely, sir. And you have also pointed out a very important aspect, which actually is relating to the regulations, pharmacopoeial regulations. And for formulations, the recommendation is only for using certain quantity of raw material, which is not always linked to the API content, or it may be only mentioned the minimum qualifying criteria for that raw material, but it is not linked with the actual API content. And what I guess rather, that the total market of formulations is much more than the standardized extract market right now in our country.
Yes.
So keeping that in view, so there is no incentive, commercial incentive for R&D for genetic improvement or content improvement research, sir.
Yes, absolutely. You have touched upon a very, very important point. Where is the R&D support for this area? And substitution is so much simple that, say, for example, in Dashmula, out of those 10 plants, many of have been replaced by something else. And as a result, the cultivation of those important ones do not get favor because you have an easy solution of replacement. And then you lose that benefit of the Shmula. So it is a short-term gain with a long-term loss. And that's where the another thing question comes, ki, look, how many such replacement have been done in the last 20 years, where the particular house has gone into obsolescence. Like say, for example, bark. Now, obviously, when you take out the bark, the tree get damaged, so you have a consideration that what is the solution can be for the bark, or when you want root, the plant gets uprooted. So those considerations are there, but then there are scientific solution also, that how you can basically do and still meet out your objective.
Thank you, sir. I do not have any more points to share, and I am just looking forward to our next interaction in the roadmap formulating
Yes.
meeting. We will, as I told you, sir, we will get into a huddle in RCFC.
Sure.
And we'll come up a program, and we'll check your availability of you and your team, sir, and we will have a brainstorming session regarding how to take it forward and involve more stakeholders into that. Over to you, Professor Mujumdar.
Thank you, Mr. Chakraborty. The thing is there any person would like to raise any question? Please kindly raise your hand. Acha, Madam, you may raise. Shoma Chakraborty, she is making the this documents ready for all of us. So, ma'am, whatever the question you do have, kindly raise.
Yes, sir, your session was very insightful, and I have two questions and one rather request. The demand of the industry for quality, materials have increased for medicinal plants, but the compliance issues are alarming. So, what should be the roadmap to make some checkpoints of compliance adherence? And do you have any suggestions on the process upgradation?
Yeah, you are very correct that when the demand goes up, and so does the price, and then that is where the dilution takes place. And the example what I gave, that root got substituted with the stem, or stem got replaced with the leaves, those things are there. And that is where National Medicinal Plant also was quite observant of and gave the notification that use of ashwagandha leaf is not allowed in the place of ashwagandha root. And these type of basically the time to time intervention, that where the deviations are coming, the industry, because sometime industry becomes silent because they are the beneficiary. And therefore comes the question that the observant arms of Ayush and and there is no sampling program. If you can say that, okay, how many samples just tested by the Ministry of Ayush in different states out of the formulations which they pick up, probably the number will come quite disappointing. So there must be a national program. They can give it to universities, they can give it to all the institutes who have got the equipment, that, okay, why don't you do the analysis of 10 sample and report it to the center, that what is the quality you found about. It's not about that that you are going to prosecute them, but you are basically trying to monitor the quality and bring the awareness, consensus that quality is important and it has to be monitored from time to time.
You have produced very important data regarding the compliance issues. Like 59% or over that they failed in the compliance. Can there be a pictorial percentage-wise representation of the quality parameters where they failed, because that can help in arresting the root cause?
Yeah, we will share that data with you, the further basically details, which will be helpful And this is just a tip of the iceberg, madam. 400 sample is too small a number, but this is just a tip of the number that you can presume that this is the problem. And this is a real problem with the which everybody is facing, including the farmer also.
Okay. My last question. There are some areas where Ayurveda even does better than normal allopathic medicine. Like in some cases, surgery is not required if Ayurvedic intervention is made on time. So, but still, there is an apathy among the Indian consumers or consumers, I mean, worldwide. There is lack of this awareness. Do you think that bold steps need to be taken regarding information sharing and with proper data bank, and there should be a follow-up with the patients after the cure, and that should be, taken, graphed in the data bank that should help? Should that help?
Yeah, in fact, you have brought up a very, very important point. And again, I would say that now after the COVID, the differentiation of health and disease has become very clear to the people that absence of disease is not the health, and the health got redefined. Now, again, Ayurveda is for health. Ayurveda is not for treatment of the acute diseases. Okay. Now, people, if at all they are looking for Arjun bark or say Crataegus bark or the bark which tones up the heart muscle, it is for toning up the weak heart, not for treating someone who is suffering from heart attack. Same way, now people realize it. What is the importance of this kidney function test and filtration rate, and what can help in the revival of those nephron to improve the kidney function, and what is the role this Boravia diffusa will play. Now, this concern has come that nobody wants to fall sick in today's time. Everybody is doing a Google search to find out how can he stay healthy. And in that process, they are trying, oh, ashwagandha. I read somewhere that ashwagandha is good for sleep, good for things. Now, the whole question is there are at least 200 brands of ashwagandha if you do the Google search. And if you ask a question, are these 200 the same? The answer will come, no, they are all different. And therefore, what you said, why people do not trust Ayurveda. Whereas it is age old, it is used for centuries by our ancestors, but still we tend to consider it as a inferior to allopathy is only because of the perception which has developed and the usage which we want. Otherwise, Ayurveda for health is as true as sun rises from the east and sets in the west. The only thing is it has to be the right thing. The herb has to be right.
Thank
Mr.
you,
Shah.
sir. That was all from me.
I
Thank you
think
so
there
much.
is a question from Mr. Srikat Kumar Basu. Yes, Mr. Basu, please.
Yeah.
Introduce yourself for 1 minute and then you can.
Yeah.
Please.
Am I audible?
Yeah, you are on.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. My question is based on our research, we find that there is an acute mismatch between the commercial producers who are working on production of medicinal plants and the buyers, which means medicinal companies, whether it's of Ayurvedic or allopathic or pharmaceutical origin, looking for particular plants. So, for example, a farmer has produced say adequate quantities of ashwagandha, and when the plant is mature and ready, he's not finding any buyers in the market. And on the other hand, say for the producer who has got a big shipment order from the overseas, is looking for Brahmi Sag, and he's not finding any producer who can provide with them this huge amount of sag that he's looking for. So because of this acute mismanagement or miscontacts between the ground level producers and the procurers, I think the huge potential for the trade of medicinal plants is not taking that shape that it should get that boost in India, because the farmer does not have the information of where to go for the buyers, and the buyers also do not have enough information for the specific producer who are producing specific plant. So one of my question to you, Honorable Sir, is can Ayush Ministry at this beginning part, when there is a huge overseas demand for Indian medicinal plant, can act as an interface between various producers of medicinal plants in the country and the buyers through producing some apps or through some government regulated markets, or providing a platform where these two could interact with one another?
This is a
Else,
wonderful.
the farmers are losing interest in producing medicinal plants.
Yeah, this is the wonderful observation and a very, very strong need. And you have very rightly suggested that in the technology age with the internet and everything, either Medicinal Plant Board or the Ayush Ministry can act as a pivotal point to post the requirement and availability both. Like you have a multiple commodity exchange where all the spices basically appear, then what are their rates, and accordingly the crop year is planned, the data is there. So this is something which needs to be made by any of these agencies about the availability and the area under cultivation, so that ultimately what happens, there is a hide and seek game going on between the producer and the actual person who need the medicinal plant, and there is a tendency to basically stock it to let the price go up. Now all these things will go once the transparency comes, that what is the actual cost of production and what is the quantity available, what are the quality, the certification. And I believe that very soon the next step of government is going to be on this side to establish and give more support to Ayush Ministry and National Medicinal Plant Board to bring transparency in this trade. At the moment, there is a opaque transactions are there.
Very true.
Okay, thank you, sir. Can I ask a second question,
Yeah,
Professor
yeah.
Majumdar?
Yeah,
Sure,
yeah.
Okay.
sure.
But
Okay,
he
thank you,
should not
sir.
take too much of time, because he has delivered this lecture. I know Dr. Mohanji Saxena has been suffering a little bit for the past few days. I'm sorry that I have drawn him today with Shantanu Babu and Misal. So still, you please raise the question. I think he is very happy to answer.
Yeah,
Sure,
yeah.
sure. Thank you so much. And he has been very kind in being very candid and providing us the guideline. So my second question to you is, sir, that there are hundreds of medicinal plants across India, and there are specific rare, endangered, and endemic medicinal plants in isolated biogeographical areas in India that are in severe need of protection and conservation. What's happening based on our research is, I see that because these medicinal plants are so difficult to commercially produce, because we have very little agricultural information and technology developed for that. So what's happening is our marginal farmers or fringe forest dwellers or poor people who are suffering from abject poverty but live in close proximity of the forest, or tribal or SC/ST communities that are very deeply associated with forest, have intricate knowledge where the plants are available, and they are harvesting them indiscriminately. As a consequence, these plants are not getting enough time to regenerate, so they are harvested before the fruiting and their flowering cycles could begin. When some sometimes their fruits are needed, the vegetative parts are taken out, and these being taken out so ruthlessly and indiscriminately. And I'm not blaming the poor person who are doing this, because they are also suffering from abject poverty. But the challenge is that slowly we are pushing these plants towards extinction. There is very little survey work based on my research that Botanical Survey of India has very little information of how this is happening. The forest surveys of India, are more concerned about the major forest products or the timber. They have very little information on what's happening on the medicinal plants, medicinal mushrooms, and other areas. So we are losing rapidly rich biodiversity of medicinally important bioresources we have in India. And both the government and the government agencies paid by the government has very little information based on surveys on that. And this is happening at a regular pace, particularly in areas where there is very little government control. In many isolated areas like various parts of Northeast India, where it is so isolated, remote, that the government has very little information what's going on and whatsoever. So if the Ayush Ministry or the Indian Medicinal Plant Board does not take an efficient or effective role in working towards multiplication of these plants and rehabilitation and regenerating back into their habitats, I am worried to say, sir, in the next 20 to 30 years, 40 to 50 species of very, very rare endangered medicinal plants from India will get extinct. But on the other hand, if the government, in association with the stakeholders, take an initiative of multiplying this plant, even commercially, invest money on this, the phytochemicals produced in these plants are so rare and used in cancer and various other treatments, can bring in foreign exchange in huge turnover for the government. The government needs to invest on these areas, identify the rarest of the rare plants, and start initiatives or programs on commercial production of these plants. I see a very, a significant gap at the ground level on the various agencies like the forest agencies of the state government or the central government, or national agencies like the Botanical Survey of India, working in complete incoherence with one another. No one has any idea what the other agency is doing, and they are not exchanging survey information, and we have very little information documented of what we are losing, what percentage we are losing, and what we need to do based on those accurate survey. So unless, I believe, the Ayush Ministry take a significant step in this, we are at a loser side, and other developing countries with similar agroclimatic environment like India, such as our arch rival China, will take up and saturate the market, because China has started working extensively on rare medicinal plants which produce rare chemicals and are multiplying them, and then they are storing them for a few years, and then once they will open the market, they will be able to sell it in 10 to 15 times the market prices. I think India is losing out on this by not investing on this. We have a Central Medicinal Aromatic Research plant, CSIR Institute. I do not know what kind of stuff they do, but I do not see at the ground level that the government is taking enough initiative to protect rare endangered medicinal plant and working on their multiplication, because it will have huge financial implications for India down the line if we protect and multiply them and return them back to the habitats. What's your take on this? Is the government thinking anything, and if we could do anything?
Absolutely correct in your observation. Now, let me basically say 2 points for taking it up. One is we have to look into the global trade. And I remember Shantanu sharing a data that Indian share is 5% and China holds almost 95% of share in the medicinal plant. And then we need to see how China has been able to, how Chinese have been able to achieve 95% share. And we, with such a rich heritage, has been just living with 5%. And that is where what Dr. Saikat said, I am reminded of a story, 2007-2008. There was a global tender for the requirement of artemisinin. for cerebral malaria prevention program, and it was a global program. Kenya was the country which was identified to have the best cultivar of Artemisia, and Ranbaxy had signed basically the agreement. At that time, it was Ranbaxy, and they had signed an agreement for getting that and produce Artemisinin. Now look at the basically intelligence that how Artemisinin crossed the blood-brain barrier. And they looked at into the structure of Artemisinin where they found if this triazine nucleus, triazine, is helping to cross the blood-brain barrier. And they said, why not basically we can add this triazine in chloroquine phosphate, and they modified and created an adduct of triazine with chloroquine phosphate, and that crossed the blood-brain barrier, and the requirement of Artemisinin, that tender was cancelled because the synthetic chloroquine became effective for cerebral malaria. Now, what doctor has just said, there are so many such instances available in Ayurveda where the resistance antibiotic in presence of the herbal compound become highly susceptible. And we can basically manage those infectious disease. We can manage many of the such disorder where the research can validate, and yes, we will be benefited. Now, I have a suggestion which you can make, that a delegation must travel to certain part of China with the representative from Ayush, Ministry, Industry. They must do 2 weeks of to understand how Chinese are able to have 90% of the world trade and identify today whether it is garlic, whether it is ginger, whether it is turmeric, whether it is glycyrrhiza, everywhere the source is from China. So then comes the question, what is the type of support their Science Technology Council provide and the economic banks provide. Today, probably if I go to the bank, which I do, and ask for working capital support, they said it's a agricultural commodity, risk prone, so we don't have the norms to give it, so much so. They say, so what I am trying to say, if a delegation travels to China to study this, and ultimately we have to take a long-term roadmap. And as you rightly said, I fully agree with you that the knowledge getting extinct, plant getting extinct, and with the age population getting replaced, you will not find in the village tribal community existing. And those tribal community would be their next generation will not know anything about that, what their ancestors knew about it. So that is something which I would suggest that we must make a proposal to the government to take up a delegation of experts from India for this. So for this studying the Chinese thing, and accordingly that will help us in preparing our roadmap for both purpose, the commercialization, the R&D, and preparing the country future ready for in the area of medicinal plant.
Thank you. I think we are just completing our 1.5 hour session.
Thank you.
And,
Thank you,
I
sir.
think we should not exceed that. That would be too much for, Mohanji, Sri Mohanji Saxena.
So in fact, my entire team is here and they are very keen, and
We will be, sir, we are not letting you go. We'll be with you. We indeed, we need your expertise, your guidance, and obviously we can take the model forward, and only that is possible to this sort of discussions, this sort of knowledge sharing, and this sort of, making some effective summary of that so that we can formulate one framework. With this, let me thank you once more.
Thank you
And
very much. Thank
I
you.
have the second experience of listening you, not through this virtual communication, but in your physical presence in Ramakrishna
Yes.
meeting,
Yes,
where we organized our first international conference, or probably
that's
the second,
right. That's
second
right.
that might be. And there you were there, physically you were there. And that was really the first time we get your, this knowledge-based lecture. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
once more.
Thank you.
I think now we should make it an end, but we will be having this sort of sessions in future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
No. Sorry.